All right. How are we doing today, everybody? All right. Day two of our, 5-day lesson plan. Okay. Dealing with the outsiders. All right. Yesterday, or even a couple days, however you've been working on this on your own, a couple days here and there, doing it just one right after the other, whichever. You were to have finished the Outsiders book itself. So, what'd you think of that last line when it was exactly the same as the first chapter, first line? Isn't that amazing? S.E. Hinton, she is a genius. I think I will teach this book until the day I die. Absolutely. Anyways, so the book is amazing, as we've already established. Okay, maybe you have other thoughts, but I want to kind of just digest some of the material, especially all of the conflict that happened during this book. And let me tell you, or you should even know, that it was every chapter something was happening like an internal conflict, an external conflict, just anything that someone was having a problem with. And honestly, it's kind of like how our lives are, and that's what we deal with every day. So it's kind of nice in literature that we can connect that, and we can connect outside experiences to the books that we read or things that we're writing. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why I like this book and teaching, language arts so much. So, anyways, all right, I'm totally going off topic. So we're gonna kind of just dive right in. So, what is conflict? All right, you could have conflict with your mom, you could have conflict with your sibling, with your boyfriend, girlfriend, your pet, whichever. So, conflict in general. Okay, whoops, I cannot type right now. Conflict. A struggle between opposing forces. All right, just like I said, mom, dad, grandma. Hopefully, no one fights with their grandma though. Dogs, cats, boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, schools, society. Okay, it can get as big or as little as you want. Okay, so overall, just the conflict is the struggle between forces, whichever side you're on. Okay, the bad, the good, the ugly, all in between. Okay, but between that though, I'm gonna move down just so it's kind of digging that. It's like this. Okay. Right below that, there's two types, like I had mentioned. Okay, we have internal conflict, all right, which we have like that is within yourself, inside. Okay, so a struggle a character has within him or herself. Okay, and then the external conflict, which again, probably most common or just most easy to identify with right away. A struggle a character has with an outside force. Okay. And I'm sure you've been kind of racking your brain already of all the different conflicts that Ponyboy, our main character, has come across in these 12 chapters. Okay. Especially from the jump scene right at the beginning to the conflict with himself at the end about what to write about for his composition. So we go from one end of the spectrum to the next in this book, and this is just why these conflicts are so easy to identify, because you guys, just like, oh my gosh, he's fighting with Deary again, or he's fighting with the Socias. It's just so easy to pull them out, which is why this activity is going to be so easy for you guys to identify what's going on in our story, okay? But first thing, so we know our general overview of conflict, but I want to just kind of briefly go over each type that you could possibly choose during this next assignment that you're going to work on, okay? So we have person versus person, man versus man, however you want to swing it. I'll put it in parentheses, but either way, they both mean the same exact thing, okay? So this was the most easiest. This is the easiest conflict to identify, okay? And as the name implies, oh my goodness, come on, keyboard. This conflict involves, oh, gotta love autocorrect, involves one person battling another person. Okay? Short and sweet, cut and dry. I love it. All right? Then we have probably the second most common, and this is person versus self, okay? Or man versus self, if you've just learned it that way, or just remember it that way, especially from our 7th grade teacher. So this is when a character has a difficult decision to make. And he or she experiences an internal conflict. So again, you are just battling your mind, okay? You're battling your conscience. You're battling your heart, all right? Anything in between that you are struggling with personally. So just you versus yourself. And it's totally a thing. And I think every day we battle with ourselves in some type of conflict. Could be as little as, oh, I shouldn't really eat that piece of cake today in the lunchroom. Or as big as, I really shouldn't be in this relationship. Or I need to study for my test. Or stuff like that. So they can be as little or as big as, as anything really. All right, so let's get a new slide. And we have 3 more that I'm just going to kind of like just jump right at you. Types of conflicts continued. How about that? Okay. And we have a person versus, let's make this black. Person versus supernatural. Okay. Supernatural. So anything from the Odyssey to with Greek mythology, to ghosts and zombies and goblins and fairies and dragons and anything that is just not in our natural world, and making it super, literally breaking the word apart. Something that you could struggle with there. So if your characters have, or if it's in a certain genre that supernatural is just all around you, definitely person versus supernatural could be very easy to identify in your story. So this conflict involves supernatural forces, okay? And again, just like how, I guess a classic man versus supernatural would be in the Odyssey, like I had mentioned, when Odysseus battling all sorts of creatures, okay? And for our purpose of The Outsiders, supernatural really didn't come about. I mean, it's a pretty basic novel back, in the 50s, and everything was in Oklahoma, so we're in a place where we're not seeing ghosts and stuff like that. But I guess maybe towards the end, when Ponyboy was like hearing Johnny and Dally since they had passed, like they're ghosts maybe, but it's not as like so cut and dry and in your face kind of conflict. So I really don't see you guys really working on that one as much as the other options, okay? So moving on, person versus nature, or man versus nature, like I've been kind of changing. All right, characters, battling, forces of nature, literally, okay? I cannot spell today. Forces of nature, and could be a man's quest to stop from freezing, or could be like a tree fell on your car, or because I guess we could probably say the water fountain in The Outsiders. All right, so literally forces of nature, anything outside of the 4 walls that you are currently sitting in. All right, and our last one for today, we are going to call this individual versus society. Okay, or man versus society. Okay, this is when, or what happens when society dictates things should be one way, but a character decides things should be another. And how many of you feel that being individual versus society is such a common thing? Especially you being an 8th grader, okay? Being in my class, 8th grade is such a tough year. Everything from school versus your family versus you. Excuse me. Just how life looks at you as a teenager. This definitely is something we all can relate to. And even as myself, as a teacher, I still struggle with, fellow teachers and the society with, what is school supposed to be about? What should we be teaching? the state of Ohio, life itself too, being the age that I am, and should I be, we just got married, so I'm kind of like, everybody's thinking, okay, when's your baby coming? What's next? So society has such a pull on everything that we do, okay? And then it can go as high as the government influencing us different ways or conflicting with our opinions and our beliefs and stuff. And it can just keep going on and on. We can go bigger than government if we really wanted to. So these are the 5 that you're going to be looking at in your next assignment, okay? So backing up, conflict in general, a struggle between forces. So you versus something else. Or if you're a fly on the wall and you are looking at the main character versus your, antagonist of the book. So like, what is going on? All right, what is the conflict? So person versus person, okay? So that just literally name, as the name implies. Person versus self, so the internal struggle. And then we have person versus supernatural. Those are literally these supernatural forces out of our control or something in more sci-fi, different genres. Person versus nature, again, very similar to just the name implying what's going on. And then man versus society, all right? You versus 2 other people or 200 other people. So what is going to be your conflict, okay? So on Classroom, I'm going to post this lecture from the YouTube link, and then I'm also going to post this little handout. So it's titled The Outsider's Conflicts, okay? As you can see, all right, as the directions say, for each of the 6 types of conflict, describe scenes from the novel that match that type, okay? And what's really great is that your teacher, Mrs. Nay, moi, put as many boxes as many conflicts as what you should have in the story, okay? So there are 5 boxes. Okay, I'm correct. 5 boxes for person versus person, all right? So please make sure you pop in there, all right? Type Ponyboy versus whoever. And then I also want you guys to tell me just a little bit about what happened. What was the struggle in the book? What was the conflict between these 2 people that made it stand out to you so much as the reader, and to really show like what our characters and as the narrator, like what they went through, okay? Person versus supernatural, down here, this is just one of them. Like I said, it wasn't as common in this book, but I could probably guess it's something to do with a church when they were there, when Ponyboy and Johnny were just kind of hanging out, or towards the end when Ponyboy was really struggling to write and some voices like spoke to him. So just kind of pick one of those. That one I'll be pretty lenient on. All right. Person versus nature, you have 3 boxes, okay? And then the second slide, we have person versus himself. So that is the, man versus self, the internal struggle. There are 4, okay? And I am totally great with the fact that if you did, maybe you picked 4 different characters and told me a conflict for each character. Or maybe Ponyboy had 3 and Johnny had 1. It does not matter, whatever you guys come up with. We did not go over technology, but it's pretty cut and dry, just like man versus nature and stuff. Person versus technology. So when were 2 times, that Ponyboy or someone in the gang struggled with technology, or it was conflicting. It definitely didn't help them, or maybe, someone else used something along those lines. And then lastly, we have person versus society, okay? So there's going to be 5 different times someone versus society, comes across in our book, okay? So comment on anything you want me to do or any questions you have on Classroom. But other than that, just look back at my notes, listen to this a little bit. I know I love to ramble. You guys love it. I love it. The Outsiders is the best book ever. And fill these out and then just submit it back to Classroom, and I will grade it once it's been posted. Okay. Have fun.